Okay, so I have like a main big story, which is might be entertaining. I don't know. It was my life, so now you get to listen to it. And then I have like a little appetizer story beforehand, so you're to wet your whistle. I was talking to a friend the other day about gray areas, and he reminded me of this story. So I was dating this girl, and things are going to get a little graphic here. Things were getting a little physical, you know how people do. And it was mid-physicality kind of stuff. And a noise was heard. I guess like the technical term is a queef. So a queef was heard. And, you know, I've been around these before. So I looked her in the eye, and I said, "It happens." And then we continued, and it was all good. And in my mind, I was like this like chivalrous knight who was like, "It's okay, ma'am. These things happen." And then later on, we were talking, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." The conversation of like, had anyone ever farted in front of each other kind of thing came up. And I was like, "I've never farted in front of you." I was like, proud of myself again. And she's like, "What? Are you kidding me? You did like once during sex, and you looked me in the eye and said, 'These things happen.'" So in my mind, I'm like this knight in shining armor, and in her mind, I'm like the dirtiest scumbag, just like farting and boning and like telling her it's okay because this happens. So that's the appetizer. Now you have to grab the other fork. We're going on to the main course. Okay, so now I'm done. That was it. So it was college. Ooh, big time in my life. It was second year of college. In first year, I was kind of like on the outro of a relationship, so that shit kind of was. And so second year started, and I was like, I am done with relationships. I'm like gonna rock the single life. I'm just gonna get right in there and explore the world of women and men and dogs, and who knows where who knows where life will lead me. There was no dogs. It was just a joke. So we started, and within 2 weeks of college, I had a girlfriend. So I'm real, you know, stick to the rules. And I knew we knew each other for about 4 days, and then we started dating, and it was kind of like that whole, we'll just date and see if we like each other kind of thing. Which is how like a lot of successful relationships start, which I've heard. So we had like a whole year of just like really fun college life things, and it was really good. And then, a side story is every summer I started college, I didn't have a girlfriend. So it was kind of like in Harry Potter, like how every year they have like a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. I don't know if anyone's following right now. And it's like, oh, this one's going to be great. And then shit happens. And that's what I thought. This is going to be great. And then shit happens. So every year I started school without a girlfriend. So third year comes around, got to stick to the tradition, and I dumped her. But I dumped her because I don't know, she was taking it really serious. And like, it would have been fine, you know, at the time if she was like going to be the one, but I wanted to explore more, and I wanted to like see what's out there. I was young; I didn't want to tie myself down. So, like the chivalrous knight I am, I broke her heart, and then I started. Like, we had that year of lovely relationship, and then the next thing that followed was just a year of hell. And how that went was, it was like we were dating each other, but then we weren't dating each other, and then sometimes, you know, we'd go on dates and we would sleep together, and then all these other things, but then we would also go on dates with other people, and it's like, who knows what we really are? This is fun. Everyone's having a good time. Yeah, no one was having a good time. I heard someone out there. So one scenario there was a bunch of crazy ones, but I'll just bring up one because it's hilarious. We were all drinking at our place once, and she was there, and she had passed out early. Maybe she was sick, maybe she drank too much. Who knows these days? And a friend of ours was like, "Hey guys, I know how to get on to the roof of the college." And We were from, I went to Sheridan. I don't know if you guys, Sheridan? No? That's okay. Yeah, front row. They're all my friends. It's okay. So Sheridan, Oakville, it's a pretty cool school. And someone's like, let's climb on top of it. I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. So we rallied the troops. And then there was my girlfriend, who was lying there. And I was like, hey, come on, we're going to go, onto the college if you want to come. And then she looked at me and she's like, I don't want to do that. Leave me alone. Because, she was sleeping and stuff like that. So also, as the knight I am, I said to her, because, things were a little rough. I said, we're leaving now. It would be really great if you weren't here when we came back. Which is like romantic poetry, I know. It's like, just read that on a card. So we left, and we went to the school, and we did our thing, and it was really fun. And then we came back, and the house was empty. And so she was gone. So I had thought. So then I went to bed, and I was kind of sitting in my bed, and I was like, oh man, what is going on with my life? Like, this is not good. I'm not happy, she's not happy, we're just hurting each other, this is just the worst. I didn't say anything out loud, I was just in my head. And then I looked over at my closet, and the door was closed. And I never closed my closet door, because as a kid I was like scared of monsters in the closet, and I just assumed if the door was never closed, then they couldn't hide in there, logically. So now the door was closed, and I'm like, what monster's in my closet? And then I was like, I'm just gonna text her. So I text her, and then I hear from my closet, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I walk up, and I open the closet door, and she's sitting there, like, huddled in the clothes. She's like, I didn't know if you wanted me to leave or not. And I was like, I didn't want you to stay in my closet. Really wasn't an invitation for that. So, more stuff happened after that. And then, I honestly don't remember how that part ended. I think I was like, you can come out of the closet. Like, I didn't just close it, and like, I'll deal with that in the morning. I'm going to sleep. Just trying to school. So then, summer came around, and I decided to stay in Oakville this year, because, not this year, this was like a while ago, that year, because I just didn't want to go home. And so, everyone kind of left, like there wasn't a lot of people around. So I was like, cool, I'm going to get a job, and I was going to get a job with my best friend. I'm going to change the names just in case, but I'll probably screw up, so you'll probably hear the real name at some point. But, so his name was Gary. So that was my best friend, and we would hang out all the time. And here's the thing about Gary. Gary lived with my ex-girlfriend at the time. Like there was like 5 of them, and they all hung out all the time. And I would hang out there, so that's how I knew them. So then Gary and I became best friends. And Gary and I got a job at Booster Juice, which is like really fine establishment. And okay, so that happened, and then I would go over to Gary's house, which was also my ex's house. And Gary and I would play video games, and we'd kind of just like, whatever. And then once in a while I would see my ex. And things were okay. It was kind of like a weird summer, because it was like still like, oh, are we in a relationship or are we not? What's going on? Do I like my job or not? Answer, no. And the funny thing about Booster Juice was like, no matter what I did there, they just didn't like me. But Gary, they just loved Gary. Like he was just like flying to the top. And then me, I'm like, I can't even make the tropical breeze, guys. I thought it was 3 cups banana, but just it's not. So, love life's falling apart. My amazing job is just like going crazy well. And then everyone decides to plan a cottage trip. Hence the name of my story. You'll see why. Not hence yet. So the cottage came up, and it was Gary's cottage. So it's like, sweet, this is going to be good. My ex, she wasn't coming to it. She just couldn't get the time off of work or something. So it's like, great. I get to hang out with all my friends. It's going to be good. So the cottage was on the weekend. My life started to change on Thursday. So Thursday we went out drinking, and I guess it had rained that night. And on the way home, there was a huge puddle. Now, I'm going to tell you about something about me. I love jumping over puddles. Like, wow, it's amazing. Because, like, even if you fail, you just get wet, and it's funny, and everyone has a good time. This puddle was huge, like larger than some people's blow-up pools. Huge. So I was like, I'm gonna jump this puddle, and there was a lot of people watching, so I had an audience. So I got ready, I went back, and then I ran and I jumped, and it was like slow motion, just glory, like my hair blowing through the wind as I like land on the other side, and twisted my ankle and rolled onto the ground, and then did one of those like somersaults and got up, like I meant to twist my ankle, and everyone's cheering, and it was great. And we're all drunk and having a good time. And then the night just kept continuing, and I was like, sweet, whatever, I'll just limp a bit, that's fine. And then the next morning, so that was Thursday, and then on Friday I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. Well, I mean, I could get out of bed, but I couldn't stand because there was something wrong with my ankle. So I went to the hospital, and I was sitting there in the hospital thing, and they did x-rays and all that stuff, and I was sitting next to this one guy, and up on the x-ray thing is an x-ray picture of an ankle, and it's just shattered. Like, bones aren't these, they're not like this. It's not like this bone connects to this bone. It's like this bone is just wherever it wants to be right now. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh man, we're supposed to go to the cottage. My bones don't work. And then the doctor comes in and he's like, all right, you can leave, you're fine. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, look at that. And he's like, oh no, that's the other guy that fell off a ladder. You're fine. Like, you just sprained your ankle, leave. Like, okay, cool. So, while I was in the hospital, I was supposed to work a shift at my amazing job at Booster Juice, and this just keeps lowering. So I called them and I told them that I couldn't come in because I had sprained my ankle and I was in the hospital. And they said, that's okay, you don't have to come in anymore. And I was like, okay. So I lost my job. And then, but it's fine, we were still going to the cottage. The cottage was going to be good. And then Friday afternoon, right before we left, I was on my computer, doing whatever people do on their computer, and the screen like had these green lines that went, and then it just stopped. And then my computer just did not turn on again. So recap, Thursday, sprained my ankle. Friday, lost my job. Friday afternoon, I lost my computer. And being an artist and not being smart, I didn't back up anything, so it was just like, whoo, just all gone. But it was okay. We were still going to the cottage, and it was going to be fun. So we got to the cottage, there was just a bunch of us, and this was on the Friday night. We got there, we're all having a good time, and I went for a walk with my friend Gary, and we're walking on the beach, and it was really beautiful, and like there's the stars and everything, and I kind of like bump arms with Gary, and I'm like, well, Gary, you know my confusing love life. Like, what about yours? Like, any girls? Have you seen anyone? And Gary's like, oh, I'm not really like interested in anyone right now. There's just no one around. I'm like, that's understandable. Maybe you're focusing on your health, whatever other people focus on. And then Saturday came around, and my ex found a way to get to the cottage. And so she... when like things aren't working out for a reason, and maybe you should just follow that? But she was like, hell no, I'm getting to this cottage. So she came to the cottage, and things were still loopy and weird and wonky. And there was one, like that day, I came into the house and I had to wash my hands, or I had to go to the bathroom or something. Some reason I had to go into the bathroom, but she was showering in there, and like the door was kind of like opened a bit. So I just like knocked, I was like, hey, I have to wash my hands. I think I had like meat or something gross on it. And then she said, you can come in. I was like, okay, fine, I won't look, I'll just wash my hands. And then I go in, and then she was like, hey, come over here. I was like, still kind of being in love and not being in love. I was like, oh, what is this? And then she pulled me over into the shower, and we like shared this really nice kiss, and it was really romantic, and the shower rain was on, like coming down, and I could hear songs in my head, and I thought at that moment, I'm like, you know what? The cottage does fix everything. Like, this is gonna turn everything around. It's gonna be so good. I saw someone just facepalm. Oh, things are getting good. So then that night, we're all drinking and having a good time, and my ex decided, this is like, can you stop? I didn't even pull you back up. Oh, now both parts. Okay. So we're drinking, and then Gary goes to sleep. He was tired. And then my ex, who was we were staying in the same room, she went to her room, which is the room we were staying in, and I was just hanging out with people. And then I went to bed, and I noticed that she was like lying, you know, like that really classic like passed out pose where you just like face down with like your phone in your hand. Yeah. So that's what she was doing, and I normally don't go through people's phones. Like whatever, it's your phone, you can do whatever you want on it. You can play Bejeweled for as long as you want. So her phone was there, so I was like, I'll just pick it up and move it. And then I picked it up, and then it lit up. And I'm like, you know, like your eyes are only going to go right there. And then I read the text that was being sent. And it said, yeah, you're right, it was to Gary. And it said, I wish I wasn't sleeping in this bed, and I wish I was sleeping in yours. And Gary, my best friend at the time. And then I was like, well, this is totally fair. And then I just went through all the texts. And I just read it all, just with her passed out. And then I learned about their whole relationship that had been building up over this past summer while I was working with Gary and all these crazy things. And then, you're right, the cottage does fix everything. And then I closed her phone and I went and, like the grown man I am, I called my mom at 4 in the morning. And I said, she's cheating on me with my best friend. And then my mom's like, well, yeah, you didn't see that coming? I was like, what? She's like, come on, Jeremy. So I got, I just left the first car that was leaving the next day, and I went home, and I grabbed my broken computer, and I hobbled down to the train station, because my ankle was also sprained, and I was jobless, and my computer didn't work, and I took a train home, and I didn't even have friends anymore, because they were all boning each other, so I just lost everything in like one weekend, and I went home, and I made a puzzle, and and I thought to myself, many months later, you know, after all that, like, even though it sounds like the worst weekend of my life, it finally got me out of that gray area of that relationship, of us both torturing each other, and no one ever knowing what was really happening. So I kind of want to say thank you to her, because it saved us both.